He's a plague, Tony. He invades planets, he takes what he wants, he wipes out half the population. He has the power in space stones. That already makes him the strongest creature in the whole universe. If he gets his hands on all 6 stones, Tony...
He could destroy life on a scale hitherto undreamt of.
Happy Infinity War week, everybody. This is going to be my post-credit scene video. Hopefully you've had a chance to see the movie, but obviously, spoiler warning if you have not seen it yet. We will be going into specifics of Marvel's The Empire Strikes Back. So if you are brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Marvel videos. There's going to be a lot of Avengers 4 talk that we'll do in the next couple of weeks, and there's a new round of that Infinity Gauntlet giveaway that I'll explain at the end of the video. We make a lot of jokes about how it feels like Marvel was going for their version of Empire Strikes Back with this movie. I think they were largely successful in that. I'll talk about it a little bit more during my spoiler review. But remember the Obi-Wan scene after the Death Star blows up Alderaan.
Are you all right? What's wrong?
I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. I fear something terrible has happened.
If you're a big comic book fan, you probably noticed immediately what they did with Thanos' quest in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline. That post-credit scene is effectively an overlap. It's a twist on a Nick Fury moment from the beginning of the Infinity Gauntlet, literally within the first 15 pages of that storyline. So what happens is Nick Fury and Maria Hill are standing on a street corner with sirens going off everywhere, everyone's screaming, there's lots of car crashes happening, you hear a helicopter careen by and crash without a pilot in it. My only thought there was them doing a Thanos copter Easter egg. Nick Fury gets really pissed off, like he has a sense for what's going on. He starts to see people turning to ash around him, pulls his phone out, starts to dial, and starts to drop an F-bomb. But right before he can drop the F-bomb, he turns to ash too. Then the camera zooms in on his phone and you see Captain Marvel's symbol. So he's calling in reinforcements for Avengers 4. There are 2 big reasons why they chose this particular post-credit scene when you could have done anything, like you could actually jump to Captain Marvel. But number 1, I think that they wanted to tease the idea of Captain Marvel without completely giving everything away, what her costume looks like, what her powers look like, because we're going to get the Captain Marvel movie right before Avengers 4 comes out that'll explain all that. She's going to be a huge character during Avengers 4, so they want some connective tissue between that character and between these 2 parts of Infinity War, Part 1 and Part 2, whatever Part 2 is going to be called. The second big reason why they chose Nick Fury is because he's going to be a big character during the Captain Marvel movie, which will be set in the past during the 90s, so he is the connective tissue between Captain Marvel, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers 4. The only people that really get left out in the cold there are Ant-Man and the Wasp, because they have a movie that's coming out in a couple months this summer that is confirmed to be happening before the events of Infinity War now. Post-Civil War, but before Infinity War. What'll happen is I'll do a separate video explaining that timeline after more people have a chance to see the movie. There'll be plenty of Avengers 4 videos. But effectively, what they're doing with the end of Infinity War is ending with the very beginning, the intro to the Infinity Gauntlet storyline. What happens at the beginning of that is that Thanos just starts the story, the opening pages, with the completed Infinity Gauntlet, and Mephisto is standing there with him, just marveling at his achievement, just to make a Marvel pun. You're like a god now. So you remember during comic book Infinity Gauntlet, he assembled the gauntlet to erase half of all life for Death, who felt like there was just too much life. It needed to be balanced. Standing victorious, he's hoping to have won Death's affections at completing the task, but then realizes, oh, how silly of me, how inconsiderate. I haven't actually completed the task as you requested, in thinking that this will just completely win Death over, who doesn't care about him at all. She's just standing there blank faced like, okay, let's get this on. Any minute now, you'll finish so I can go back to my own devices. And without any grand speech or anything like that, just reaches the gauntlet up into the sky. Then probably the best reaction to this is Mephisto, who's probably only here so that he can have this reaction, whispering he's really going to do it. Like even Mephisto doesn't believe that Thanos is going to wipe out half of all life in the universe, and snaps his fingers, and that's when you get that scene with everybody noticing half of all the people on the street disappearing. When you reread that storyline, which I would recommend that you do if you haven't recently, the opening pages also deal with Silver Surfer in the Bruce Banner role warning Doctor Strange about the coming of Thanos. Silver Surfer is effectively recapping the events of the Thanos Quest storyline, and they don't really need to do that with Infinity War. That's why they have that truncated Bruce Banner scene at the beginning of the movie, because most people have been rewatching the Marvel films. You don't need a complete explainer, you just need the tee-up for people that are walking into this fresh. I think most of us were expecting them to end the movie on a moment like this, because a long time ago, most of us comic book fans, when they said what the plot of Infinity War would be, Thanos collecting all the gems like a smash and grab heist film, we're like, oh, they're doing Thanos Quest, because that's what happens during the Thanos Quest storyline, meaning that maybe they'll do the Infinity Gauntlet comic book for Avengers 4, or some version of that. So if you've seen Infinity War, obviously you know that they changed the plot of Thanos Quest a lot. They even jumped ahead and borrowed a couple moments from later in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, like with Gamora and Nebula, with them trying to get the gauntlet off of his hand. So there's a lot of mixing and matching, but in the comic book version of this, the people that disappear are actually Hawkeye, Cersei, Mary Jane, Wong, mentor of Titan, Thanos' father, who's dead during the course of this movie, half of the Skrull Empire. But what these opening pages do is they just give you this moment that is effectively the end of Infinity War, where most of the main characters of the Infinity Saga notice people disappearing all over the place. There's even a shout out to a character named Charlie when Spider-Man is noticing all these people in Times Square disappearing. But you can kind of see why I use that Obi-Wan scene, because you have Spider-Man here serving as that sort of voiceover role narrating for everyone. There was no ominous warning, not one storm cloud, heavenly voice, nor any of the kind of things that would accompany such a cataclysmic event. Nothing. Just half the people down in Times Square merely vanished. At first thought, I thought I was losing my mind, flipping out. Who or what could have done this? Had only Times Square been affected, or was this happening all over the city? Then it hit me. Mary Jane, like he screams Mary Jane and goes running off to try and find out what happened to her. I know there's going to be all kinds of questions about why they picked the specific characters to die that died at the end of the movie. Like, why is Captain America sitting here where Vision and Black Panther end up turning to ash? Because they're big characters too. Why did Spider-Man turn to ash? You kind of see what they're doing with Avengers 4, though. Like, you have Captain Marvel that's coming in because of that post-credits scene, but it's mostly the original Avengers that survive, and they kill off all the newer characters. Not everybody, because there's some Guardians representation. They're Phase 2. Technically, they're not OG. They didn't debut till after that first Avengers movie, but I think they just want some representation from that separate space-based storyline. So that's probably why the writers let Star-Lord survive, so that you just have some representation from that group of characters, because you've already seen a bunch of them die. So effectively, it's the original Avengers versus Thanos at the beginning of Avengers 4. Now, things could change over the course of that. We've seen some behind-the-scenes pictures of them barfing and looking back to the original events of the first Avengers movie, with Captain America wearing his old costume. You have to remember that they gave Thanos the time gem, so this isn't them traveling back in time. But we'll talk more about potential plot lines and things that they could pull from the comics for Avengers 4 in separate videos. Leave all your video requests in the comments below. What'll happen next is I'll post my spoiler review for Infinity War Friday morning. Then the rest of the weekend will be Avengers videos just based on what people want to talk about. So be sure to leave your suggestions in the comments below. All you have to do to enter that Infinity Gauntlet giveaway is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. But click here for my non-spoilery Infinity War review, and click here for that brand new Deadpool trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.